CM Punk questions Jey Uso's loyalty backstage on WWE RAW. Wait, hold on just a minute. Are we seriously supposed to believe that CM Punk, the man who trusts no one, the guy who's been burned by betrayals more times than anyone in wrestling history, is actually considering teaming up with Jey Uso? The same Jey Uso who just joined Paul Heyman's vision 2 weeks ago, got threatened by Heyman last week, and has a track record of switching allegiances more often than most people change their socks. CM Punk questioning Jey's loyalty isn't just smart, it's the only rational response. But here's what has me absolutely screaming at my screen: why is this conversation even happening in the first place? Why would Punk even entertain the idea of working with someone who's demonstrated time and time again that loyalty is a foreign concept to him? And why is Jey acting like he's offended that someone would question his trustworthiness when his entire WWE career has been defined by betrayal after betrayal after betrayal? This backstage segment on Monday Night Raw was incredible television, don't get me wrong, but it's also infuriating because we're watching two of the smartest characters in WWE potentially make the dumbest decision of their careers. Drop in the comments right now, is CM Punk making a mistake by even talking to Jey Uso? Or is this the smartest play he could make against the Vision? Because I am torn between thinking this is brilliant and thinking this is absolute insanity. Monday Night Raw delivered a backstage confrontation that has the entire wrestling world buzzing with theories, predictions, and arguments. CM Punk and Jey Uso, two men who should have nothing in common, two men whose careers have taken completely different paths, two men who represent opposing philosophies about what it means to be successful in WWE, stood face to face in the most intense verbal exchange we've seen in weeks. And the question hanging over everything: can Jey Uso actually be trusted, or is CM Punk about to become the latest victim of Jey's pattern of betrayal and manipulation? Let me break down exactly what happened in this segment, because every word, every facial expression, every pause carried weight and has massive implications for where this storyline is heading. Question for the longtime CM Punk fans: has Punk ever successfully trusted someone who everyone warned him not to? Give me examples in the comments, because his track record is rough. The segment opened with CM Punk in the trainer's room, getting his ribs taped up after the brutal assault he suffered from the Vision 2 weeks ago. The camera work here was excellent. You could see the bruising, the pain in Punk's movements, the determination in his eyes despite being physically compromised. This is a man who's been through hell and is preparing to go through it again. And then Jey Uso walked in. Not aggressively, not confrontationally, but almost hesitantly. Jey's body language was completely different from what we've seen from him lately. No cocky swagger, no YEET energy, just a man who looked like he was carrying the weight of some serious internal conflict. Punk immediately tensed up. His hand instinctively moved toward a steel chair nearby because of course CM Punk would be prepared for an attack even when he's injured. That's the level of paranoia and survival instinct that's kept him alive in this business for 2 decades. And honestly, that paranoia is justified when you've been attacked as many times as Punk has. Jey raised his hands in a "I come in peace" gesture and said something like, "Yo us, I need to talk to you. This ain't what you think." And Punk's response was perfect. He didn't immediately attack, but he didn't let his guard down either. He just stared at Jey with those calculating eyes and said, "I don't think anything. I know things. And what I know is that you're part of the Vision, which means you're my enemy." That's the CM Punk we need. Skeptical, intelligent, not falling for empty words or emotional appeals. This is a man who's been manipulated by the best, by Vince McMahon, by Triple H during different eras, by management in multiple companies, and he's learned to trust his instincts over people's words. But here's where it gets interesting: Jey didn't back down. He didn't get defensive or angry. Instead, he got real. He started talking about how he made a mistake joining the Vision, how he thought he was making a smart career move but quickly realized he was just putting himself under another person's control again, and how he's tired of being used as a pawn in other people's games. Question: do you believe Jey is being genuine in this moment, or is this another manipulation? Give me your gut reaction, first instinct only. Punk let Jey talk. And credit to both performers here because the acting was phenomenal. You could see Punk processing every word, looking for inconsistencies, searching for signs of deception. Meanwhile, Jey was vulnerable in a way we rarely see from him. No bravado, no catchphrases, just raw honesty about feeling trapped and wanting to break free. Jey specifically mentioned Paul Heyman's threat from last week, admitting that Heyman's words made him realize he'd made another terrible decision. He talked about how he left the Bloodline to be his own man, only to immediately put himself in another situation where someone else is pulling the strings. He even acknowledged his pattern of bad decisions and said, "And this part gave me chills. I know you got no reason to trust me, Punk. Hell, I don't trust myself half the time. But I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I can do the right thing for once." Damn. That's some heavy character work right there. That's self-awareness, vulnerability, and desperation all wrapped into one promo. And you could see it landing with Punk, even though he was fighting against his instincts to believe it. Punk's response was measured and brilliant. He said something along the lines of, "You want me to trust you? Here's the problem, Jey, trust isn't asked for, it's earned. And your track record of earning trust is about as good as your track record of keeping it. You betrayed Roman, you left Jimmy, you joined the Vision, and now you want me to believe you're suddenly going to grow a spine and stand up to Paul Heyman? Give me one reason why I shouldn't assume this is all a setup. Let me ask you, was CM Punk being too harsh or was he being realistic? Should he give Jey a chance or is skepticism the only smart play here? And here's where Jey proved he's evolved as a character. Instead of getting angry or defensive, he accepted Punk's criticism. He nodded, acknowledged that everything Punk said was true, and then made his case. You're right about all of that. But you know what else is true? The Vision is coming for you, Punk. They're gonna keep coming until they destroy you. And unless you got a whole army hiding somewhere, you're gonna need help. I can be that help. I can give you inside information, I can watch your back, I can help you survive what's coming. All I'm asking is for a chance to prove I'm more than my mistakes. Compelling argument. Jey's not denying his past, he's not making excuses, he's acknowledging his failures and offering value in exchange for trust. That's a mature negotiation tactic that shows character growth. But Punk wasn't convinced. Not yet. He laid out conditions, harsh conditions that showed he's willing to consider working with Jey but isn't going to be naive about it. Punk said Jey would have to prove himself through actions, not words. That Jey would have to give him information about the Vision's plans. That Jey would have to publicly distance himself from Heyman and the faction. And most importantly, and this is where Punk's genius really showed, Punk said, and if at any point I think you're playing me, I won't wait for confirmation. I'll end you first and ask questions later. That's setting boundaries. That's protecting yourself while still leaving the door open for potential alliance. CM Punk is playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Question for the strategists out there, is CM Punk's approach the right way to handle the situation, or is he making himself vulnerable by entertaining Jey's proposal at all? The segment ended with an uncomfortable silence between them, neither fully trusting the other, but both recognizing they might need each other to survive what's coming. Jey extended his hand for a handshake, and Punk just stared at it for what felt like forever before finally reluctantly shaking it. But Punk's grip was firm, his eye contact was intense, and the message was clear: I'm watching you, and one wrong move means war. The tension in that handshake was palpable. You could feel the distrust, the skepticism, the fragile nature of this potential alliance. And as Jey walked away, the camera stayed on Punk's face, and you could see him already second-guessing his decision. Now let's talk about what this segment means for the larger storyline, because there are so many directions this could go, and each one is more fascinating than the last. Scenario 1: Jey is being genuine, actually wants to break free from the Vision, and become CM Punk's unlikely ally in the war against Paul Heyman. This would be a redemption arc for Jey and create a compelling odd couple dynamic between two very different personalities. Scenario 2: Jey is lying. This is all part of Paul Heyman's master plan to get close to Punk and set him up for an even more devastating betrayal. This would reinforce Jey's character pattern and make Punk look foolish for trusting him. Scenario 3: Jey believes he's being genuine, but when push comes to shove, he'll revert to his old patterns and betray Punk anyway. This would be the most tragic version because it shows Jey can't escape who he is even when he wants to. Scenario 4: This is a double cross where Jey is actually working with Punk to take down the Vision from the inside, but pretending to still be loyal to Heyman. This would make Jey the smartest character in the storyline. Which scenario do you want to see happen, and which do you think will actually happen? Give me both answers in the comments. Let's examine this from CM Punk's perspective because his decision-making process here is fascinating. Punk is one of the most paranoid, self-protective wrestlers in history, and for good reason. He's been screwed over by management, betrayed by friends, manipulated by authority figures, and physically destroyed by opponents who didn't respect him. His default setting is distrust. So why would he even consider working with Jey Uso? The answer is pragmatism. Punk recognizes that the Vision is a legitimate threat. They have numbers, they have Paul Heyman's strategic mind, they have physical dominance with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and they have star power with Logan Paul. Fighting them alone is suicide. Punk needs allies, but his options are limited. Most of the Raw roster is either intimidated by the Vision or doesn't want to get involved. The top stars have their own programs. So when Jey offers to help, even if it's questionable, Punk has to at least consider it because rejecting help might mean losing the war. That's smart character work. Punk isn't being naive, he's making a calculated risk based on desperate circumstances. Here's a philosophical question: is it better to fight alone and maintain complete control, or accept questionable help and risk betrayal? What would you do in Punk's position? Now let's look at this from Jey's perspective because his motivations are equally complex. If we believe Jey is being genuine, then this is a man desperately trying to break the cycle of manipulation that's defined his entire career. He's tired of being a follower, tired of being controlled, tired of making the same mistakes over and over. But here's the problem: Jey doesn't know how to be independent. His entire identity has been wrapped up in being part of something bigger: the Bloodline, the Usos tag team, now the Vision. Standing alone is terrifying for someone who's never really done it. So reaching out to Punk isn't just about strategy, it's about finding an anchor, someone who can help him navigate independence without falling back into old patterns. If we don't believe Jey is genuine, then this is Paul Heyman's most brilliant manipulation yet. Heyman knows Punk will be skeptical, which makes Jey's vulnerability more convincing. Heyman knows Punk needs allies, which creates opportunity for infiltration. This could be a long con that results in Punk's ultimate destruction. Question: has Paul Heyman ever orchestrated a betrayal this elaborate in his career? Give me examples of his most complex schemes. The Raw locker room's reaction to this potential alliance is also important. We saw brief shots of other wrestlers watching this interaction on monitors backstage, and their faces told different stories. Some looked hopeful that Punk was building a team. Others looked worried that Punk was making a mistake. A few looked angry that Jey might be getting redemption he doesn't deserve. This creates fascinating downstream effects. If Punk accepts Jey as an ally, does that legitimize Jey in the eyes of other wrestlers? Does it give him a path back to credibility? Or does it make Punk look weak for accepting help from someone with such a questionable past? The Vision's response to this development will be crucial. If they don't react at all, it suggests Jey's defection is part of their plan. If they react with fury and target Jey specifically, it suggests his betrayal is real and threatening to them. If they mock Punk for trusting Jey, it suggests they're confident the plan will work in their favor. Prediction question: how will Paul Heyman respond to Jey's apparent betrayal on next week's Raw? Anger? Amusement? Indifference? Give me your best guess. Let's also discuss the wrestling implications of this potential partnership. CM Punk is one of the best in-ring workers of his generation, but he's coming off a serious attack and is physically compromised. Jey Uso is athletic, experienced in high-stakes matches, and familiar with faction warfare from his Bloodline days. On paper, they complement each other well, but chemistry matters. Can these two very different personalities work together effectively? Punk is methodical, calculating, and prefers psychological warfare. Jey is emotional, impulsive, and thrives on crowd energy. Those differences could either create a dynamic that covers each other's weaknesses or create friction that tears them apart from within. If we get a CM Punk and Jey Uso tag team match, what would be the dream opponents? Give me your fantasy booking in the comments. The segment also raises questions about redemption in wrestling storytelling. Does everyone deserve a redemption arc? Should characters like Jey who've made the same mistakes repeatedly be given another chance? Or does unlimited forgiveness diminish the consequences of bad decisions and make storytelling meaningless? There's no easy answer, but it's a fascinating philosophical debate. Wrestling is built on redemption stories, heroes who fall and rise again. But when does redemption become repetitive? When does forgiveness become enablement? These are questions WWE is forcing us to confront through this storyline. Heavy question: should Jey Uso's character get redemption at this point, or has he betrayed people too many times to deserve it? I want thoughtful answers in the comments. The cinematography and direction of this segment deserves praise. The tight camera angles created intimacy and tension. The lingering shots on faces captured internal conflict. The silence between dialogue beats allowed moments to breathe and build emotional weight. This felt like cinema, not just wrestling television. And both Punk and Jey delivered masterclass performances. Punk's skepticism felt real and earned. Jey's vulnerability felt genuine and compelling. Neither man was playing a one-dimensional character, they were portraying complex human beings with complicated histories making difficult decisions in real time. Moving forward, WWE has set up multiple potential payoffs. 1. The Allies Against Impossible Odds story where Punk and Jey overcome their differences to defeat the Vision. 2. The tragic betrayal story where Jey proves he can't escape his nature. 3. The redemption story where Jey finally breaks free and becomes his own man. 4. The double-cross story where both men are playing each other. 5. The friendship story where mutual respect develops into genuine alliance. Each option has merit. Each option would generate compelling television. And the beauty of this setup is that WWE has left enough ambiguity that any of these directions would feel earned based on what we've seen. What's your preferred ending to this storyline? Give me your ideal payoff and explain why. The segment also works as a mirror for both characters. Punk is forced to confront his inability to trust anyone. Is that wisdom or weakness? Jey is forced to confront his pattern of bad decisions. Can he actually change, or is he doomed to repeat history? Both men are being challenged to grow in ways that make them uncomfortable. That's great character development. That's how you create compelling long-term storylines that audiences invest in emotionally. Social media exploded after this segment. The wrestling community is divided on whether Punk should trust Jey, whether Jey is genuine, and where this storyline is heading. That division is exactly what WWE wants: passionate fans arguing, theorizing, and caring about what happens next. And here's what separates this from typical wrestling storylines: there's no obvious right answer. Both trusting and not trusting Jey have logical justifications. Both believing and doubting Jey's sincerity makes sense based on available evidence. The ambiguity is what makes this compelling. Final question before we wrap: on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think it is that Jey Uso will betray CM Punk before the storyline ends? Give me your number and reasoning. Here's my take on this entire situation. This backstage segment was brilliant television that created more questions than answers, which is exactly what good storytelling should do. Whether WWE sticks the landing on this storyline remains to be seen, but they've set up something with enormous potential. CM Punk questioning Jey's loyalty isn't just smart, it's the only sane response given Jey's history. But Punk's willingness to even consider working with Jey shows growth and pragmatism that makes his character more complex and interesting. And Jey's vulnerability and self-awareness suggest character evolution that could lead to genuine redemption if WWE commits to it. This is the kind of nuanced, character-driven storytelling that makes wrestling great when done right. Let's hope WWE doesn't screw it up. Let me know everything you're thinking in the comments. Do you trust Jey Uso? Is CM Punk making a mistake? What do you think happens next? And if you made it this far, drop trust no one if you think Punk should reject Jey's help, or give Jey a chance if you think the alliance could work. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter if you haven't already, because we break down every major WWE storyline with the depth and analysis it deserves. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown, and share this video because everyone needs to weigh in on whether Punk and Jey can actually work together. Until next time, question everything, trust carefully, and I'll see you in the next one.